My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. And I figured tonight, it looks like a busy news night, but the reality is when you're looking at what they're reporting, again, it's just another bunch of stuff. I haven't seen anything in particular in the news today that jumps out at me that didn't jump out yesterday. There is one thing I want to talk about, and that is the Huffington Post did a story about the 25 most influential millennials in American broadcast media and politics. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then also, really before we even get started, I'm going to start with Facebook. And if you have questions or there's things that you want to ask that I can answer, I'll answer it. And if not, maybe by the end of the show, I might be able to contact somebody and actually get them to talk about it. So why don't we do this? Let's go to the warning order, and then we'll just get started. So, yeah, again, starting this show sometimes just things can't get done quickly, whether it's stuff going on outside the building that is too loud and doesn't allow for me to actually start, or technical difficulties, something going on with Rico. So, and other times, which has happened, where I'm actually doing work other than this, and I have to delay the show a little bit. So, anybody that wants to take over and do a show every night and you get it started every night without any pay, then I recommend Raymond. If you want to do that, you can complain all you want and go do your own show. So why don't we see if anybody has any questions here that anybody wants to ask. So let me just look at this real quick. And again, I'm going to start with Facebook. And then I'll tell you I'm going to go to Twitter, and then I'll go over here to YouTube. See how many people we got over here on YouTube. We not many. Okay, so talk about the bastard Justin Trudeau. Let me say that in Barry's voice. All right, here you go.
Just got through taking a bunch of pictures of some people, and can you do me a favor and ask about that bastard Justin Trudeau? I've got to get back to taking pictures now. Hey, turn that wind on so I can take some more pictures. I need hair flowing.
All right, that's Barry. All right, let's see here. All right, let me go through here. Annie, in no uncertain terms, says that the Republicans are a bunch of spineless, something else here. All right, let's see here. We got a smart ass on here, Brian. I'm not an expert in water pressure there, Brian. Maybe you know the answer to that question. Let's see here. What else we got here, folks? Let's see here. This is difficult. I tried to do this once before, so it takes a minute for me to get these questions. Let's see here. Eleanor, you travel more than anybody I've ever seen in my life. Let's see here. Janice, me being a Fox News contributor. Almost happened a couple of years ago, and I guess from my sources, The fact is that I criticized Rob O'Neill, and that pretty much put me on a do not book list at Fox News. That's what I've been told. So probably not going to happen. Let's see here. Becky, why is the government bypassing and taking down Soros, Podesta, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Comey, McBride, etc.? Well, that's a good question. I think it's because they're all in cahoots with these people. We definitely have a ruling class in this country, a self-proclaimed ruling class. The ruling class that we have in this country was not created by the Founding Fathers. The Democratic and Republican parties are not written into our Constitution. They were not in the original design of the country. And what basically has happened is that those two political parties, as I've shown people before, have completely taken over our politics, and they basically, let me pull this picture up. I've had up here before. They basically monopolize every seat of government in the United States, and I'll just go to the internet here, and I'll pull this picture up. And basically, when you look at the government, and I'm talking about the government, I'm talking about city, state, federal, judges, congressmen, senators, sheriffs, they all are owned by one of those two parties, the Democratic or Republican parties. Let's see here. Let me pull this up real quick. Let's see here. I think I can type this in and get this picture and bring it up here. So, that's interesting. I put Congress election and a bunch of pictures of, looks like Venezuela came up. All right, perfect. Okay, so look at it. There's a couple ways to look at it. Okay, let's look at the Senate and look at the at Congress, both together. So you see this here. What you see there are the blue and the red. That's basically, let's see what the green is independent. So in all of the Senate, there's two independents in all the Senate that have been elected. And in Congress, it appears that there is none. But what you're looking at there, when you see these two pictures, you're looking at two private companies that own our entire government. In fact, they own and monopolize so much of our government that we don't define the government by what's being done for the people to sustain the rights of the Constitution, to see how one state is being taken care of versus another one. It's just discussed by what the Democrats are doing versus the Republicans and what the Republicans are doing versus the Democrats. That's it. That's the whole way that this whole thing is defined for the American people in politics. That's because they own it. And so, Becky, when we look at the George Soroses, we look at the Podestas, the Hillary and Bill Clintons, the Comeys, the McBrides, what's the guy's name from the FBI that's the acting I'll think of his name here in a minute, but the guy that's the acting director of the FBI. You look at Mueller, you look at the guy that's coming in, you look at all these different people from the different places in government, and what do you see there? You see the Democratic Republican Party. And so George Soros is a part of all that. These people go past. I think you can look at healthcare now. You can look at the transgender issue. You can look back during Barack Obama's time in office. Congressmen and senators and all the other people, the politicians that make up the Supreme Court. It's all politics in the Supreme Court as well. All these people are loyal to it. I want you to look at it like a secret society. Okay, we're not going to get into conspiracy theories here, but the reality is what goes on in government is really more or less just exactly like some kind of secret society. The Democratic and Republican parties, although They're spread out all over the country, and the majority of people in this country vote along party lines. They don't know what goes on in Washington, D.C., or even necessarily in the state and city governments. I know Kerry Murphy tunes in this show. He's part of the Republican Party, who I spoke to there in Saline County in Arkansas. I've spoken to the Republican Party in Tucson, Arizona, in Reno, Nevada, down in the 9th District in Georgia. And, you know, the fact is, these people are conservatives that don't see eye to eye with the establishment in Washington, D.C., and the reason they don't is because they're not privy to the secret society that makes up this group of elitists, the John McCains, the Paul Ryans, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Hillary Clintons. They are not a part of that. Those people never leave government, if you've noticed. They always have enough money to run for whatever office they're going to run for. Individuals like Marco Rubio leaves, never does his job, never really does anything in his position, never votes for a bill, yet he runs for president, is able to finance the presidency. No big deal that he's not doing his job as a senator the entire time he's run for president, and then just goes back and goes right back to work. These people know and are a part of something that we have no clue of what's going on. Deals are made just simply to, let's do this. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. We'll both be richer. We'll both get reelected. That's the way the whole thing works. But I do think that George Soroses and the Clintons and all these other individuals, they are a part of something. And probably the best way that you can see it is when you watch one of these Senate hearings or the congressional hearings where they bring somebody up and they're going to grill them in front of Congress. Nothing ever happens, and rarely, if ever, do you see any type of maneuvering to really crush somebody if they're investigating them, or if they're doing a like, for instance, part of the presidential cabinet confirmation hearings. You don't really get anything. It's just grandstanding. And nothing comes out of it, and that's because these people play a game that we don't play in this country and the rest of the country. We don't play this game. And that game is, I put a meme up yesterday, and it basically says that if you look at the results of effective decision-making, the results are the proof that what you were doing was effective. But political ideologies that we see today, there's no results to it. It never seems to get done. Nothing ever seems to get worked out, and it always has to do with the only people that benefit, whether it succeeds or fails, are the politicians themselves. So I think that's really what it boils down to, Becky, is the fact that that we have a corrupt government. It just hasn't fallen yet, but we have a corrupted government that is owned by very, very rich people. It's owned by the ruling elite, which was not a part of this country, and we didn't actually instill this ruling elite mentality, but they definitely have been able to grow it. And it's very similar to the way the organized crime will get in and they'll either start a company and then take it public, full well knowing that the company's not going to be worth anything. But they will build it up, advertise it, go public, put the stock up here, people will buy it, and then quickly the stock will start to go downhill, but they'll already be out of it. They made their money, they get out of it. Other thing that they do is they'll go in, they'll infest themselves into a business and do what's called a blowout, where they'll go in and they will take over a company and work their way into the company, get one or two executives either on the board of directors or inside the company, and they will eventually crush that company because they're just absorbing all of the profits that company will make. Or they'll just go in and destroy it so another company that competes with it can actually – this stuff happens, trust me, folks, and the same thing happens in politics. All right, let's go to see who else. Jack, I have not watched that video yet. Let's see here. Thaddeus Craig. Now, I don't know if that's your real name, but that's pretty cool. Do we have conservative candidates to challenge establishment Republicans in their primaries? Do you know who would know? I don't know who would know, but let me tell you something, Thaddeus. I love that name. Could you imagine having I don't know if that's your real name or not, but could you imagine having a baby named Thaddeus and you're like, he's running around playing on the playground and you're like, Thaddeus, get over here. The kid would have to have some type of plastic sword and a Roman like type of Spartan helmet of some kind. Anyway, so Thaddeus, do we have conservative candidates to challenge establishment Republicans? I don't believe that there's anybody out there that can challenge the establishment. Now, you may get one person here and one person there, but here's the problem I have. These people forward think everything. And so if they think that somebody's going to come in and destroy this other person, it may actually just be, because remember, they're not going to lose. This person may be defeated, but the establishment is not going to lose their footing. They're just not. They own it. Why would they give it up? So they're going to put somebody else in place that can defeat that person if need be, or they will just somehow break the whole thing up, or they'll recruit the person that comes that is run. But by and large, you don't get to that level to run for a Senate or a congressional seat in either party unless you have some pretty good connections and you're going to get financed. And that's the problem with most of these elections. It's too expensive. So I say this over and over again. The reality of what is going to solve this problem of the establishment Republicans is the people. And if we had even a half or a quarter of the people that voted for President Trump that were angry, that came together and didn't have to form a new party, but if they came together and stood against the Republican that came against the Republican establishment, then why do I constantly get porn trolls on here? That's a good. Somebody was just saying that I get that. I don't know why I get that, but that's on Twitter. But if the people came together, they could stand against this, and listen. There's either going to be I'm going to lay this out right now, folks, and you can take this, and this is the reality of what I think is going to happen. There is either going to be there's either going to be a civil war in this country, or there's going to be a mutiny inside the Republican Party. And that mutiny, the only way that it would work is if the people are the ones that literally demolish the Republican Party. Get those people out of office. Don't let them come back. Anybody that's associated with the Republican establishment, that's it. I wish we didn't have political parties, but I don't know. They have monopolized such a large part of this country's political system. Well, they own the whole thing, that I don't know if we could ever get past that. I don't know. So it's either going to be a civil war between communists and fundamental Islamists on one side, and then free thinkers on another. And that's not necessarily just conservatives. There may be liberals that say, I'm not going to be a part of this nonsense. The Tamika Mallory's and the Linda Sarsour's and all those, the CNNs and all, they're not going to be a part of that. And they actually get it. And so I don't know. It's very interesting. I think what it comes down to your question there, Thaddeus, is that are there people that could challenge the establishment Republicans? I'm sure there are individuals out there that could. Do they have the funding? Look, I think what happened in Georgia this past congressional race, where they spent was it $40 million between the two parties for just another seat. Wasn't anything extra special about that. For some reason they got fixated on that, and they literally spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. Most people that are going to be able to do a good job up there, it's just management. It's not rocket science. Obviously it's not rocket science, because the majority of people in Washington, D.C. are criminals and psychopaths and narcissists and liars. So they're not rocket scientists. And you could literally I guarantee, folks, I'm no genius, but I guarantee you I could go and pick out enough congressmen to replace all the congressmen and women up there in Washington, D.C. The senators, I could go pick them out. Just pick people. Now, that's not the way we work. We vote on things, but literally, I could go around and interview people and find out where the good leaders are, not rich, just people who understand task organization and standard operating procedures and budgets, and let's get this passed and let's eliminate this, and why, and ask the question, why do we have that? Who are you? What do you do? What good does that do to the United States? Get out. You know, we could go through and clean house, and I guarantee you we could get rid of the deficit. We could make things work. Our military would be back to solid fighting forces again, and it would be that simple. Just get good managers there. That's all. All right, let's see what else we got. Ernesto Rodriguez, hello. Let's see here. What else we got here? I need a sidekick to read the questions. Well, Valerie, I guess maybe I do. Let me tell you something, folks. If this show ever got picked up as a radio show and we could do it live with Facebook and do it on the radio, then I could have a producer read this stuff. That would actually work out quite well. Let's see what else. Ernesto, with both political parties allegedly allowing outside country influences to influence our political process and selfish interest, how do we get to a true and honest leader with no agenda? How do we hit restart? Okay, Ernesto, here's my answer to that. The true leader of this country is the people. And the people are the ones that are going to take this back. And the only way that's going to happen, we saw it on 9/12/2001. And for a period of time there, the people were united. They weren't looking for a king. They weren't looking for somebody to solve the problems for them. Because as the Jews found out in the desert when they were being led by Moses, and then when they cried out to God saying, we want kings, and then they got kings, and those kings were failures when they had God himself leading them. Well, the people, human beings, are made to work together. We are like dogs. We are we're a pack-oriented species. And when the people work together, the people can do amazing things. So the problem is, somebody just wrote limited motivation. Well, that's, after 9/12, people had an amazing amount of motivation for a long time. And people, you could have taken anybody in the country, any amount of people, and put them together, and they could have came up and solved these problems and pushed great leaders. Now, not everybody's going to be a great leader. Some people are meant to speak. Some people are meant to manage. Some people are meant to go through and kick doors and take out bad guys. Everybody has their part to do. But the problem is, we're fragmented in every section of life. We're completely fragmented. You have a good example that you guys would probably know about. You have veterans these days that have come in and volunteered during a war, right? They come in and they go to war, and then they get out, and then they have a split between them and the people that served before 9/11, and they act as though those people aren't as great. I've been attacked numerous times by other SEALs that did have stellar careers and were in battle. But yet, because I never went to war, I went to Central South America and got out and went into the air marshals. I'm looked down upon as somebody who is less than they are. When if I would have gone into battle, I would have done the exact same thing that they did. I would have charged headstrong. I mean, I proved myself, plenty of times in my training. But if that divide is there, and people are nasty to each other on that level, where service doesn't matter anymore. Now it's you got to be here, and you got to have this service, and you got to be here, and you got to. And so in the whole Instagram type mentality, where people are rating themselves not on the quality of their work or how good they are to people, it's how many clicks they get, how many hearts they get. And they offer nothing. They don't do a free show at night. They don't go out and volunteer and feed the homeless on the weekends. They just simply take pictures of themselves, put them up, and then they feel good and they feel like they're really somebody. And that division, there's nothing that you can rank people on anymore. And as far as quality goes, because ego is so intertwined in that. And the reality is, you could live and die and have done 1,000 missions, and then there's somebody else who didn't do a mission, but can you all work together to make the country better? Yes. But people won't do that because ego gets in the way. And that Ernesto, I think, is the biggest thing that we can do. Because here's the truth, brother. The politics as we know it, it's not fixable. We literally would have to get rid of the entire group of the two political parties. Somebody a second ago was talking about the primaries. I don't know if you realize this. Most people, the primaries are private voting events. That's not governmental. It's governed by the election board. Do you know who makes that up? Republicans and Democrats. So there's a problem here in this country, and the problem is that the way it was set up is that the people would take this stuff seriously, where they wouldn't push people in there that didn't need to be there. They wouldn't give political parties that much power. They wouldn't just sit back and say, we need a king. Let them go up to Washington, D.C. and rule it for us, and we're just going to sit back here and enjoy our freedom. It wasn't meant to be that way. You were meant, and in the best hopes of our founding fathers, without putting people to conscription and forcing them to serve in the military and forcing them to serve in government, the founding fathers thought, well, we fled from tyranny. Therefore, the people should understand that they don't want to go back to tyranny, so they're going to be motivated to serve. They're going to be motivated to come together. They're going to be motivated to keep this country moving forward, defend freedom, and work together. And that lasted for quite a while until that generation was gone, until the wars, the Revolutionary War, and really I wouldn't even say the Civil War. It already started before then, but the Civil War kind of culminated there. But up until we got to that point, and those generations went away, where freedom was still at risk. When that went away, the people stopped protecting freedom. They stopped working together. And the more technology expanded, and the easier it was to know people that live on the other side of the country, and people who, you need to go from here to there, and you just get on a plane and go, or you get on the internet, or you tweet out what your opinion is. See, it didn't used to be that way, and so it was easier for the people to stay united, because they basically knew the people that they lived and ate and worked around. That was it. And now there's simply no cohesiveness to the people. And because that cohesiveness of the people does not exist, it is going to allow nefarious people to come in and get themselves into positions because they swear allegiance to these two political parties. And that's really the gist of the whole thing. Now, I don't know if you guys agree with me. That's the way I see it. And from what I've seen within the military and in the different federal agencies in which I worked, somebody just said something about a picture of me when I was an air marshal, is what an air marshal would look like. I'll show you guys before the end of the show what I look like when I was an air marshal. You're not even going to recognize me. But it's the same way that spies get into our government and do things. It's the same way when you're overseas and you're working with different entities and people are able to work their way in and find out secrets. If there's not cohesiveness and people don't have standard operating procedures and people aren't doing things the way that they're supposed to do, nefarious people are always going to find their way to the top. Always. By the way, I figured out, I can't remember who told me this. I think it was somebody that got mad at me, but on Twitter, there was a thing I had to turn off because people were, it automatically defaults and allows other people to screen your show for you. So now that's turned off. So now I'm the only one who can screen the show. Let's see here. SB Lewis says, hello, and how's my fitness training going? Let me tell you something, folks. Getting out of shape is way more fun than getting back into shape. But I love the pain. I love the pain. But what is hard about, and listen, I'm almost glad that this show, and I'll go back. I'll tell you this real quick. When Jesse died, this was Rico and Jesse right here. See if you can see that. So Rico's the little one that right there, and that's when I was in the FBI Academy. That's in 2005. Rico's now 17, so you can do the math. But Jessie is the bigger one. She actually passed away in 2014, and we had ran. That's me with hair and no beard. When Jessie died, I estimated we'd ran well over 3,000 miles. And when Jessie passed away, when she got sick, we couldn't run anymore. So my running pretty much stopped. And Rico and I ran a little bit without her, but not much. Rico started to get old real quick when Jessie passed away. And I tried to go running a couple times. And I know this may sound goofy and weird coming from some guy who, was a SEAL and done all these hard things. But it was emotionally difficult for me to run without the dogs. And so that's a good thing about now is when it gets late at night, and I should be careful saying this, but the gym in the building, I can go over there. I take Rico. He sits on the floor, and then I jog on the treadmill. So emotionally, it's actually a lot better, and it's helping me out quite a bit. But that's how I got to the point where I haven't been running in a long time. So, but I'm not glad I got out of shape, but I will tell you this. I always knew when I was pushing people when I was a fitness trainer for the longest time that they were fighting a real weight. And so I was never demeaning to people, and I would never be demeaning to people that are out of shape. But it is a weight that you have to carry. Primarily, I've lifted weights. I never stopped lifting weights, so my muscles are still strong. But cardio-wise, it is hard, man. Cardio is a mental process, and that's why the SEALs in training use running to break people, because running, somebody just wrote running blows bubbles. Running sucks. And until you get to a point where you are in the cardio shape where you can go and not worry, you don't have to go fast, but you just keep going. Until then, it's a mental game. It's a real mental game. Now, how you get in really good shape is that once you get to the point where you can run, then you got to challenge yourself to run faster. And then you need to start swimming, because great swimmers will always be great runners, but great runners don't necessarily make great swimmers. So swimming is always something that will benefit and enhance your running. All right, I kind of got off track there a little bit. Let's see here. What else we got here? James Drummond had to leave. Sorry, James, he had to leave. Let's see. Alex Jones said some attorney links the Clinton Foundation to the Mayo Clinic. Might very well. I don't know. Let's see what else we got here. I know it seems like a boring show, but I'm giving you all the opportunity to ask questions. So here, hold on. We'll keep with it. The Obamacare thing. You know what, Deborah? I'm going to have somebody who knows about Obamacare come on and talk about it because I don't know the answers to that question. Deborah's asking, she said, I heard that if they repeal Obamacare, it would still be in effect for 2 years until it's replaced. Is that true? I don't know, but we'll have to find out. And I'm with Jack Jr. Kid Rock's a great musician. I think he's a patriot. But I don't know what Kid Rock... Listen, it's great that these people inspire people to want to get back interested in politics. I think Donald Trump did a really good job of that. But I don't know what Kid Rock is actually going to be able to do in Washington, D.C. when he is surrounded by people who are loyal to these two parties. And that's really the problem, is they're loyal to the two establishments in these two parties. And you know, Eleanor, I know he's just as smart as anybody else, but we need 100 people, not just one Kid Rock. And so I'm not putting Kid Rock down. He may go up there and do a great job. What does that really mean in Washington, D.C.? Do a great job. He can't pass a bill alone. He can't, say that transgender doesn't need to be in the military alone. It's not going to do anything. So that's the problem here, is that not that he's not going to be able to do this. Kid Rock's not going to be able to do it himself, or that he's not going to go up there and do a good job. But we need literally hundreds of people that don't want to subscribe to the establishment to be going to Washington, D.C. And that's hard to have that happen. It's almost impossible. Vicky Sue, she says, one night I said there will never be peace in the Middle East. Why did I say that? Vicky, there's never been peace in the Middle East. There never will be peace in the Middle East. And I'll tell you why. Because that region of the world is split up and dedicated to religions, not democracy, not a republic, not capitalism. Religion rules that region, and a chaotic religion is, by and large, the bully on the block, and you're never going to get rid of that bully. Fundamental Islam, it's always going to be there, and so it's only going to spread, unfortunately, and it may ebb and flow. If there was a big war and a lot of those people ended up dying or leaving, but the Middle East, we don't have the stick-to-itiveness in our government and other governments to actually step forward and do the job and fight the war like we fought in World War II. In 1947, we created the Secretary of Defense, and from that point forward, we've never successfully fully fought a war, defeated an enemy. We pushed them back like in North Korea, and we sanctioned them, and here we are 50 years later or more with North Korea on the verge of getting a nuclear bomb. So as you can see, it doesn't world militaries, world leaders, and politics are going to stop us from fixing that problem, and political correctness are going to stop us from fixing that problem, and they're only getting stronger. So there will not be peace in the Middle East. You can send 1,000 Jareds over there. I don't know who that guy thinks he is. He's going to stop something in the Middle East. But somebody on Twitter is asking, what about opium fields in Afghanistan? And we are in there, Occupy America, 90%. Lost that question. I think that is something that we should be very suspicious of, the opium fields in Afghanistan. And the amount, this is what's interesting about this. Did you notice that before 9/11, now I'm going to go a little conspiracy here, but before 9/11, prescription drugs were not all the rage, because by and large you had to be wealthy enough to afford your own doctor to get addicted to prescription drugs. I think also by and large that opiates and opium-based drugs were not as prevalent. A lot of them hadn't been invented yet. So, but it's interesting, after 9/11, the opium-based medicine field exploded, literally, and all these different opium-based, and this is my opinion from what I've seen and from what I've studied when I was in the FBI and looking at these, because we dealt a lot with drugs when I was in the FBI, and so, and I know a good buddy of mine that's in the DEA, and we've had talks like this before, but the opium trade there, in the opium fields in Afghanistan, we just happened to go to war in Afghanistan. We, and all of a sudden opium became all the rage in the medical industry. And now what do you have? You have an entire country, our country, and a lot of countries around the world that are being consumed by opium-based drugs in what's called legal drug addiction. And it's not that the drugs were prescribed to them, but these are over-the-counter drugs. Shouldn't say legal, should say over-the-counter drugs. And what I think there's a correlation there. I think when you look at things and you look at the timing says a lot, folks. Timing for me as an investigator says a tremendous amount, because if you look at history before and you look at history after, and there's a marked change at one point, you can determine that something has happened there. And so when you look at 9/11 and we see the terrorist attack, and then in 2002 we started going to Afghanistan and we started invading, and very quickly opium and heroin and all these prescription pills started to rise again, and now it's completely out of control. And you can track it back to where the increase happened, not before 9/11, happened after 9/11. So I think there's a correlation there, and I think that that's something that should be looked at. Now, I know I'm all over the place now, but listen, it's your questions. Let's see what we got next. All right, let's see here. Is somebody mad? Hold on here a second. So, is Ernesto, are you through walking, or are you still walking? Is he still on here? For those of you who don't know, and you know what? I think I got it right over here. Hold on a second. Let me go grab this shirt. You guys just talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right there. Don't go anywhere. All right, I'm back. Let's see here. I don't know if Ernesto is still here. Let's see if he is. Let me get plugged back in here. I'm not seeing him anymore. Does anybody know if he's still on here or not? Ernesto, if you're still here. Ernesto was walking across the country, And yeah, I think that's his shirt. Somebody sent this to me. That's your shirt, right, Ernesto? There you are. Now, are you still walking? I see you there now. I know there's a little bit of delay on here. Yep. So yeah, this is your shirt. Let's see here. There he is. Fine looking dude. He's a stick man. And let me put this up here to the screen. So there you go, folks. Let's see what he says here. And I want to know how much weight you lost walking like that. Well, we'll just have you on here, and you can tell us all about it. We'll have to do that one day this week. No, he moved on to advocacy and speaking about veterans issues in different organizations, finishing in April. Gotcha. All right, we'll have to have you on, buddy. You lost 50 pounds. Well, listen, that's the other thing I'm starting to learn is I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere, so I'm not running quite as fast as I used to. So we'll have you call in. We'll do it earlier on one of the shows when it gets earlier, but I'll reach out to you offline. Yeah, I've been working with Stephanie about some of this swag. Now, you guys ready? Somebody asked about when I was an air marshal. Who was that said something about that? They said about a picture of me as an air marshal. It was on Twitter, I believe. All right, you guys ready for this? You see this right here? This is me now. Okay, here you go. This is me as an air marshal. And yes, I was wearing the Gillum undercover holster system. You can look that up online. It was a patent pending holster that I came up with. I still have all the material to make these holsters. Dave Robinson has one now. And I was actually wearing a Glock 21, which is a full-size 45 caliber underneath my shirt. And nobody would ever know. Maybe I should grow my hair back out like that. But unfortunately, I got a skinny yarmulke, as you can see. Here's Rico when he was in his heyday. That's back when he didn't mind. Here's Jessie when she was in her heyday. And this is the last mission I ever did in the SEAL teams. Training mission. How's that for a picture? That's like a poster. All right, there's a trip down memory lane for you. Let's see what else you guys are seeing. So why is the Iran deal being recertified? I don't get that at all. I don't like that at all, Hank. Hank says, according to Eli Lake at Blooming, I don't know what that is, Trump had to be dragged kicking and screaming to certify the Iran deal, which has to be recertified every 90 days. IIRC. They need more time to build the case to drop the deal, I think. I don't know. See, here's the other thing, folks. We have gotten to a point where in this country the politics are so powerful that they've entrenched it to almost a point where you can't go back. One politician, see, that's what I was talking about, Kid Rock. One person is not going to be able to make a change. I think Kid Rock going to Washington, D.C., is similar to President Trump going to Washington, D.C., in that I don't see him standing. I hope he doesn't stand firm if he makes it there with the rest of these politicians and becomes a, wheeling and dealing with these Republican establishment like Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, I think, has good qualities of a great leader. Trey Gowdy doesn't do anything. He's an establishment Republican now. No, I have not watched this season of the show 6. I can't watch those types of shows. And I'm sure you talk to my buddy Will on here. He can't watch those either. Hello, Gingill. All right, what other questions we got? Let's go, and then I'm going to talk about millennials and the Huffington Post real quick, and then we'll get out of here. I know this has kind of been a rambling show, but it happens. I'm not going to come on here and tell you guys that, oh my gosh, this amazing stuff is in the news and we need to talk about this. It's the same. The show is 6. It's on the History Channel. It's about the SEALs. It's about SEAL Team 6. It was season 1 of 6. Yeah, see, Annie says Kid Rock is a huge Republican, and that part bothers me. I don't want anybody who's a huge anything. I don't want a huge Republican. I want somebody who, listen, if I had it my way, we would get somebody with Bill Gates money, and we would get together, and we would get 400 or 500 people, and we would all come together and train in a certain area on effectiveness, on standard operating procedures, how to work together, and then we would spread the money and get these people elected. I don't care if they were elected in a Democratic Party or a Republican Party. Just get them elected, and once they get to Washington, D.C. on a given date, they all stand up and say, we are the new party, we the people. We renounce any dedication to any of these other parties. We are the American, we are the people. That's what I wish could happen. If it was in my world, that's what would happen. I agree with that. They should do a show on the beginning of the SEAL Team, especially UDTs. The Constitution Party. See, the reason I didn't say party is that I don't want a party. Look, the Greeks, like 2,000 years ago, you had to be on a lottery system, just like for jury duty. And which is funny, our founding fathers didn't want to conscript the people, so they didn't make mandatory military service a law. But yet we're conscripted to jury duty. I don't know if you ever thought about it that way, but the Greeks 2,000 years ago, what they did was you were on a lottery system, just like jury duty, to serve in Congress. I think it'd be great. Let's see what else. I do agree, Norma, that it's not the Dems, it's really the communist ideology has infiltrated the Republican Party. I think that that's the case. Ernesto says, I really don't want to see a celebrity or entertainer who is busy getting likes and shares and retweets to run anything. We can't let this country turn into a reality show. I agree. I also don't think that we need more people that are going to come in and talk softly to the media. That's one thing I love about this president, is that even though he goes a little bit overboard at times, I like the fact that he treats the media like they're nothing special. I don't know why the media is even in the White House, which I've said over and over again. They should be out of the White House. Let me go over here to YouTube's. So, Iron Man 88, you got a lot of X's in there. on YouTube says, Iraq and Afghanistan veteran here. I honor previous combat veterans. I look to them for strength. I read Rommel and Patton's books to prepare for combat, and I was a lowly private. So let me ask you this, Iron Man. I agree with you 100%. But do you think that the same respect, although, you know, granted, when you go into combat, your training that you've learned is put into effect, but you're going to learn other things when you get into combat. I was never in combat, but I went through, I don't know, several hundred doors when I was in the FBI. I did thousands of hours of surveillance. We followed bank robbers. We followed terrorists, organized crime individuals. I've arrested people from all three of those groups. I look at every agent in the FBI as a qualified agent. How do you feel? You're a combat veteran. How do you feel about people who served in the military but weren't combat veterans? They are deserving, just as deserving of respect. And listen, if I had been in a 400 missions like Rob O'Neill, I'd be saying the same thing. Somebody posted that Kid Rock is a libertarian. So Brian Horn on YouTube says, communism has driven a wedge into the cohesiveness of the people of the United States. The manifesto prescribed dividing the citizens into class levels and tax the working class into bondage. That's really, you're absolutely correct there. We've gotten to a point where the divisiveness in class system in this country has been created and furthered by the education elite, which I'm talking about the Ivy League schools, by the governing elite. These people, I'm not saying that they're elite. That's their words, not mine. And they have divided. It's very similar to the question I was saying there a minute ago. I've said this already, but I'll say it again. The question I was just saying, asking Iron Man about non-combat vets versus combat vets and how they are looked upon. And it's very similar where you have people who graduate from Ivy League schools or they hold a big office in the government, and they look down on the rest of the people as though the rest of the people are stupid. Now, I will give them this. The American people, while technically not really stupid, are extremely lazy and extremely comfortable, I guess you could say. Laziness is one of two things. It's either a choice or it's a side effect of being comfortable. And comfort kills. I've always said that. You know, people that barely scrape by can actually get comfortable with that as long as they have enough money for the rent stuff. They just change their daily lives to the point where they just don't do anything, so they don't spend money. So you see, comfort is where this country is at. They're comfortable in their freedom. They're comfortable in not doing too much because they know, if you have too big of a business, there's going to be problems. If you do too much work, people are going to start looking at you and expect you to do that stuff all the time. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not seeing questions on Twitter because they come up and then they're gone within like a few seconds. So that's how I'm seeing this. So, Will, my friend Will on here brought up a term, which we need to go over this someday, MK Ultra. MK Ultra, everybody thinks it's a conspiracy theory, but it's actually a real program that was ran by the CIA. And what's interesting is that is another one of those terms that 5 or 10 years ago, if you said MK Ultra, everybody thought you were a weirdo. But the reality is I hear more people talking about MK Ultra than just about anything now. And we really need to have somebody come on here and explain the reality of what that is. Let's see here. So Tim says he disagrees. He thinks we need media in the White House but fair media, which is never going to exist, Tim, sorry. Not a bunch of partisan elitists. We need to know what the hell they're doing. First-time viewer, keep it up. You got it. So here, you're pointing out a good issue here, Tim, because the reality is our government's so corrupt there needs to be overwatch. But the problem is the people that are in the White House overwatching our government, they're not really overwatch. Here's what I believe, Tim. This is me thinking outside the box here, okay? I think that there needs to be a commission of civilians, former military, law enforcement, business executives, people who have not just existed in the country, people who have actually done something. And that commission needs to be screened. They do SF-86s just like anybody else in government. They get a full clearance to the highest levels. And then you'll have another group of those people that overwatch them. And I think that group of civilians should then be given the power to overwatch the government. And they should be able to have the power to subpoena stuff and get it. And there's no like when Congress subpoenas something and one of these agencies says, we're not going to give it to you. I think that everything that this civilian group would do would be in secret. That they could be elected or they could be. I would rather them not be elected. I'd rather them apply for the job and get it on the basis of basically of their merits and what they've done in life, and only a short term that they would be in there, and excuse me, and then kick the press out, because the press doesn't do anything to overwatch the White House or anything else. They basically are cherry picking and going in there, and they cause more problems, I believe, than they help. They've created, I believe, this whole Russian thing. They've manipulated it and done all these things. And I would rather see a civilian overwatch group that publishes a report and says, this is where money is being wasted. This is, if something is being done that's criminal, they refer it to the FBI. And if they also overwatch the FBI. If the FBI is not doing their job, then they let the American people know. Instead of a State of the Union address from the president, these individuals could give a State of the Union address every year or twice a year or whatever, and this civilian overwatch group would have teeth. Wouldn't just be like, hey, we're just going to go in and check things out and give a report. There would be ramifications to what this group saw. There would have to be some kind of way to make sure that these people were loyal, and they would have to be held to the highest regard. And then, unlike politicians, if they committed treason or espionage or gave away secrets, they would automatically go to jail for, let's say, the rest of their life, something big, so that they just would not screw up. And I think if we had something like that where the civilians overwatched, and for what purpose, Anthony Rawlings, wait, are you asking me that? You're not Anthony Rawlings. For what purpose? I don't know if they're asking me that or not. So who is this right here? This is view profile. Hold on a second here. Richard Muncie. I believe that's who that is. No. Whoops, I didn't mean to block you. Okay, hold on a second here. Unblock. Sorry about that. I don't know who that was, but I blocked him. Let's see here. See if I can unblock you. There you go. Sorry about that. Israel and Irish Heart. That's who that is. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to block you. You're unblocked now. I didn't mean to block her. That was my big finger got in the way there. So here's what I'm trying to say here. I wish I could have her say what she was saying again. Somebody knows her. Tell her she's unblocked. I didn't mean to block her. I was trying to look at her profile. We'll get back to that conversation. Oh, I know what it was. She was saying that all the stuff, the lies in the White House. I want to know what she means by that. Did she mean that Trump is lying, or did she mean that that the reporters in the White House are lying. That's what I need to find out. Okay, Will, you're on. Dude, I'm going to put you on if you want to talk about the MK Ultra and stuff. I've got a couple other friends that could talk about that as well. All right. We're going to lose people, so let me just pull this up real quick. I know it's late. We've gone long. All right. Let's see here. First thing I want to talk about real quick. So I'm going to have to stare at this computer over here, so let me pull this out a little bit. All right. So I'm not this is probably going to burn a few people here, all right? But bear with me on this. I'm hard on the press, and I don't like these talking heads that are in politics or on TV constantly. I personally am not a fan of Ann Coulter's. I know she has a big following, and I know people swear by her, but Ann Coulter is a exhibitionist, and she goes out and makes a name for herself and then writes books, and that's her thing. She when she gets ready to write a book, she'll make a big deal, or she makes herself a big deal constantly. I don't know really what Ann Coulter's done. I looked her up. I know I think she's an attorney, and she is a conservative, but I don't really know what she's done that anybody should really be giving her as much attention as they can. I, for instance, don't think she was really ever planning to go to Berkeley. I think that whole deal was spun up and made to look big. She then calls the NYPD little girly men for whatever reason. She had a beef with them, and now she has a beef with Delta, and she's a bully. Ann Coulter is a bully, and whether she's right or wrong with Delta Airlines, I think it looks bad the way she handles this. And I think the fact that she took a picture of the person who got the seat and put it out there, calling the lady a name, saying that she had legged woman or something like that, and calling her an immigrant, takes American jobs, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think Ann Coulter personifies one of the things I hate with these different conservative talking heads. I don't back Ann Coulter. Sometimes Ann Coulter says things that I agree with, but most of the time she says it in a tone and in a way that's demeaning. It's arrogant. It's snotty. I don't know her personally. She could be a nice person, but I'll tell you this: her persona I could freaking do without. I don't think it does the country a bit of good. I think there's a lot stronger people that we could be listening to, and women that are powerful and not rude, and that when they sit up and talk, people want to listen. No one is perfect, but this woman is purposely disrespectful and purposely rude and purposely arrogant, and I don't think that America needs that. So let's talk about some other people here real quick. Let's see here. The Huffington Post, not exactly your spectacular truth, symbol of truth in the American way here, but they have a story called The Top 25 Millennial Broadcasters. I didn't know these people were now called broadcasters. I thought these people were op-ed opinion people more than anything, but now they're calling them the top 25 millennial broadcasters in American news and politics. Now, I think to be a millennial, you got to be around 31, I think is the max right now. So that's old enough to have served in the military and graduated college, or have been a cop and graduated college, or gone to college and become a doctor. I mean, the age of 31, you can actually have been somebody and gotten yourself in a position where, yeah, you may actually know something. But I'm going to skip to the bottom of this list because we're talking about Ann Coulter. And I'm going to just give everybody a little heads up. I've been on her show back when she used to have a show. And Tommy Lahren, who's for some strange reason has become this conservative like hero, even though she believes in killing babies in the womb. Tommy Lahren is 24 years old. She was born in 1992. She graduated college, and that's it. And then she went into media. So, I don't know Tommy. Like I said, I've been on her show before, and I never met her personally, but she was nice to me, talking back and forth. But there's a difference between being somebody who is an anchor of a show, who's interviewing other people, which I still believe that the best anchors are the ones with real world experience, of which this girl has zero, and having an attitude and coming out, and all of a sudden she's like, her opinion is something that we should listen to. Shouldn't she go out and learn a little bit more about life before she gets the attitude? Now she's gotten to the point where now she likes to curse when she does her little videos and act tough. And quite frankly, I think, there's been many times when I've wanted to say curse words, but I've refrained from it because I don't think it, I think it demeans your point, the educated point that you're trying to make. And so I have no clue how this person not just became an anchor, but became a voice that people sit up and say, did you hear about what Tommy Lahren said? Who gives two craps what Tommy Lahren said? I want to listen to somebody who was in World War II and then became a doctor and saved 1,000 children. That's who I want to hear about or from. I want to know somebody who was in the who served in the Air Force OSI and then got out and worked as a police chief somewhere in some inner city place. And that's who I want to hear from. I don't want to hear Scott Eulinger, who was a station chief in the CIA. He's in his 40s. I'm giving Scott the benefit of a doubt that he's in his 40s. I don't want to hear from Tommy Lahren, who's 24 years old and graduated college, and that's it. Let's look at some of these others. You got Meghan McCain. Everybody knows she's my favorite. Meghan McCain graduated college, wrote a book. I don't even know what knowledge she would have to write a book except for what her daddy did. And the fact is, she's the spawn of John McCain. I don't believe in legacies in politics. I believe in people coming in and doing a good job. Just like you're not going to hire CEOs because they were so-and-so's daughter who was a CEO. If somebody was a failed CEO, you're not going to freaking hire their kid just because they were a CEO. Why should we listen to what any of these people that are the children of these politicians say at all? I don't like Chelsea Clinton. What has Chelsea Clinton done? I know people are going to say, well, she ran this and she's been a part of this. Chelsea Clinton graduated college, got a job for $900,000, and has ridden her father and mother's coattails, or dragon tails, whatever they are, and ridden those things into positions where she's just put at high positions. Chelsea Clinton never crawled through mud. She never sweated over whether or not she was going to be hired for the job, or whether or not she wasn't going to get the promotion because somebody else came on board. She never suffered from any of that stuff. Who is Chelsea Clinton to tell us anything about anything? And quite frankly, listen, I know I'm going to say this, and I've met Donald Trump Jr., and I think they do a good job of running their business. But quite frankly, I don't need to hear what they think about politics and about the military or any of that stuff, although I would put them in a different category than Chelsea Clinton, because Donald Trump with his kids actually made them work, according to them. We don't know them, but according to their stories, he made them work. He made them come out to construction sites. He made them do these things. That tells me a little bit more about the quality of who they are as people. But again, the problem with people that grow up, and not everybody that grows up in rich families like this. The problem with people who grow up in rich families, they have to guard against privilege. They have to guard against being given a position and say, no, I want to work through this and get to a position. And the same thing goes with Ivy League people who just graduate from college and they're right there. You got the Barack Obamas, the Ted Cruzes. You got all these different people who've been. Yeah, I said Ted Cruz. You got all these people who've been. They go to college and they go to Harvard Law School, and then they clerk for a Supreme Court justice, and then the next thing you know, they're a state senator, or Barack Obama working as a community organizer and a college professor, and then a college professor where they haven't even, what have they done before that? Next thing you know, they're running the country. There's no experience there. Look, if you have, that's your resume, that's great. But go out, crawl through the dirt, sweat over a job, do something that you didn't get because you're privileged. See how the country works. Go work across where they're building a new portion of the freeway, and or go work out here with these guys that are constantly digging up and filling up the roads here in New York City, running a jackhammer for a while. Experience life and how bad it can be, and then go up there to Washington, D.C. and take your great resume of academics, not operational. And that's the other thing. I'm sick of academics. I know there's academics that watch the show. I'm not sick of you per se, but I'm tired of academics getting into positions of authority and not taking the opinion of people who have real operational experience. I mean, it happens the other way. I'm sure if it was all operationally minded people that were in Washington, D.C., they would be bagging on people who are academics as well. So let me see who else they got here. I just point out real fast. There's two people in particular here. Let's see here. Simone Sanders. This is another woman who is, let's see, was born in, where'd she go there? 1989. She's 27 years old. Served as the national press secretary for Democratic presidential campaign of Bernie Sanders, who lost. Let's see, her background. Simone Sanders was born on December 10th, 1989, grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Her father, Daniel Sanders, retired from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Her mother, former executive director of the Great Plains Black History Museum. She attended Creighton University and graduated Bachelor's Business Administration in 2013. She's done nothing else. That's it. I mean, she's been in journalism and she's written some stuff, but that's it. And you're made to listen to her. Now there's one girl. Oh yes, here it is. From my alma mater, University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Jessica Sabin, and aka Jessica Deloche. She is, how old is she? I don't know how old she is. She's young, and just got married, and she graduated college. The end. And now she is talking about, let's see, Deloche, who has found her niche since March as a lonely liberal voice on discussion panels for Fox News shows like Tucker Carlson Show, Neil Cavuto, and Martha McCullum Show. So all three of those shows should be ashamed of themselves for putting a person that only has a college degree and zero experience in life, and she's going to go out and help shape the narrative. So that's Fox News we're talking about, not CNN. So you're going to get truth from this? I don't think so. I don't think so, folks. She's playing a role. She's not out there informing people the truth. She's playing a role. This is her, and I quote, "Anytime I go on, I can count on a Facebook message to be waiting, and it's not going to be nice." It's been fun and an unexpected turn in my life, she said. I'm not there to argue and yell back and forth. I try to use each opportunity as a teachable moment to make it about content and not about me. What I enjoy is distilling issues and putting forth a view and a message. Now, let's just break that down real quick, because first of all, she doesn't have enough life experience in anything to be teaching anyone about what's going on. What she can teach people about is the narrative that she's been told to push forward. That she can do. And that's probably, I guess, the one teaching thing she does is she's a narrative spreader, just like all the rest of the talking heads, which just shows you don't have to be smart or educated. You just have to be willing and able to open your mouth and look pretty and sit up there and spread the lies. That's what she does. She's also a senior advisor to Michael John Gray, the state representative from Augusta and state party chairman. So she's a senior advisor. What's his junior advisor? Somebody who's in like 7th grade in high school? That's... I don't know. It's not all about the women either. They just put the women up on here. Guy Benson, big Fox News guy, right? Guy Benson graduated, grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Got a bachelor's degree at Northwestern University. Worked for broadcasters. Primarily with Hannity and Combs. This didn't exist anymore. Before assisting the channel with its coverage of 2004 Republican National Convention. This is a guy who's 32, so he's right on the cusp. His career has been in journalism. And that's it. And he's gay, which I don't care about. And then you have your older people like the CNN Chris Kaliza, which, interestingly enough, is 41, 10 years a senior, but has done no more than they have. He has a BA in English, lives in Falls Church, Virginia, and is a political analyst for CNN, and has been in journalism since he graduated college, and that's it. And as I say, if you've been in journalism since you graduated college and that's all you've done, then your opinion, in my opinion, doesn't mean anything. Now, that's my opinion, but I don't think your opinion means anything. Now, you see, when I sit back and I analyze this stuff and I read this stuff to you, the reality of who is giving you this message, as I've always said, I'm a humble person. I know what I know and what I don't know, but the reality is, folks, you sit back and you're given a group of talking heads and pretty people and angry people, and that's all you're going to see from these news agencies. You're not going to see. Listen, there are millennials that are in their young 30s that have been to war and that have been in charge of men and women in environments that these people will never be able to comprehend. There are young people who dropped out of college. Look, Mark Zuckerberg, I think he's lost his mind, but you got to give the guy credit. He is a psychopathic business person who's done amazing with this product at such a young age, right? I give him those props. So when he talks about this stuff, I'll stop and listen to him. I think he is gone off the deep end and thinks that he's going to, I don't know what he thinks. He's a globalist. He's obviously a globalist. But a lot of these tech people, they're extremely bright, and they've done amazing things. The problem is when they get a bunch of money, they go freaking nuts with this money. And whatever eccentricity they have, it gets worse and worse. Somebody just said they hated me on Twitter. Well, I'm heartbroken over that. Some cowgirl it looked like. So, oh, so who is this cowgirl? Okay, there you are. She said, my kid is a combat vet, still in, and is a millennial. And he says that I don't know if it's a he or she, said that they hate millennials. All right. Rebecca says, I'm an independent with mostly conservative views. We need to unite as Americans, not be divided by not being full conservatives. Absolutely agree with that. In fact, Rebecca, I wish we would just stop looking at the terms conservative and liberal. And as the meme that I just put up, I'm going to show you guys this. I posted this yesterday. Stand by 1 second. Or I posted this today earlier, actually. See if you can see that. Let me see here. Turn the lighting down on it. I know you guys think that some of you may think these memes are stupid, but it's one of the only ways to get people to see the truth at times, and so that's why I make them. I'm not out there taking selfies because I love myself. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make with all this stuff is that going right along with what I said yesterday, with what we've talked about today, with all these interesting questions, is that I don't know how many times I can say this. The only people are going to be able to change, specifically, they're going to be able to change this country is we, the people. And as you can see, the people that are feeding the minds of young people around this country, they have zero experience in life, none. And I don't want to say this to me because maybe I'll write a book one day about how much I can't stand millennials, but right now, if somebody says millennial, their book title has the word millennial in it because they're a millennial, automatically that person, I think, should be written off and they should be told, go get some more experience. If your claim to fame is that you're a millennial and that's what you're going to write on and say anything like millennials doing this or they're taking charge of that, go away. We don't want to hear from you. Go get some experience in life, come back, and then we'll listen to you. Donna, I'm sorry. Where's Donna talking to me? Yes. Let's see here. So Donna's wanting to know why do I, and she's doing this in all caps, so obviously she means it. And why keep bashing those on our side? Well, I'll tell you, Donna, I've said this many, many times. The Democratic Party is full of non-free thinkers. They're robotic thinkers. They're told, think this way and do this thing and believe this, and that's what they do. They think this way, they do what they tell them, and they believe that certain way. So when it comes time to unite, to stand against any other free thinker that's out there or any ideology that somebody has or opinion or idea that doesn't subscribe to their narrative, they unite that fast. They unite that fast, and they employ the Saul Alinsky tactics, the Marx tactics, the Stalin, the Lenin, the Satan's tactics immediately, and without any hesitation, are unified. Now, when you look at the conservatives or whatever you I call them free thinkers, but the conservatives in this country, by nature, they are not governed easily. They're not told what to do. They don't subscribe to, they do subscribe to narratives. Comfort does that. It makes people subscribe to a narrative. But by and large, they are questioners. They'll say, well, I don't know. Why do we need to do that? Why don't we do it this way? And so there's no unity there. And what we have now in this country is on the free side, on the conservative side, is you have at least half of the population of the country that either thinks that they know what's best when they don't have the experience to talk about, or to in certain circumstances they may have enough experience to say, no, I think it should be done this way because they've done something in that field, But a great vast majority of the time, they don't have the experience. Instead of saying, okay, let's listen to what this expert has to say, they won't. They will just sit there and say, you don't know what you're talking about, or I don't listen to you, or you're an idiot, or whatever, and they get upset. The other group of, when it comes to conservatives, they don't even want to engage because they have their lives, they're raising their children, they're going to church, they're doing what's right, paying their taxes, and by and large, they're not interested in taking part in the process. They think the process should be taken care of. That's why they elect officials to go to Washington, D.C. and fix everything for them. But that's not the way the country works. So, Donna, when I bash those in this country that are free thinkers, I'm bashing the whole lot of them. And they're easily swayed by the Ann Coulters or the Tommy Lahrens because they're not out there doing what the communist left is doing, which is being united. And so they're easily swayed. Maybe you have 1,000 that are swayed. Maybe you have 4 million that are swayed. Then they go out and they tell other people, the Ann Coulter said this, and then they formulate an opinion. If the people were united and the people discussed things and the people came up with and said, shared ideas and understood that I don't know this. That's why this show is so great, because if I don't know something, I'm going to go find somebody who does and let them talk about it. That way the rest of us, me included, can sit back and say, okay, now I understand what this narrative is that's being played about healthcare, for instance, much better. And now I can see when they are lying, and I can also, when I talk to other people, I can explain to them the reality of this, and we can unify. That doesn't happen on the conservative side. It doesn't happen. And so that's why. So I hope that explains it to you. Donna, so you're saying, okay. Well, okay, so you're sticking up, Donna, you're sticking up for Tommy Lahren. Well, Tommy Lahren is 24 years old. Tommy Lahren says the same thing as Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, because Tommy Lahren is hearing Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh say that stuff. Or she's been around a conservative ideology long enough where she's formulating her opinion. But it's just that. It's a formulated opinion. It's not built on expertise. It's not built on experience. It's not built on knowledge or understanding. It's built on an opinion that she was raised around with conservative people. She has zero life experience. She has zero time in the dirt or in any field where she had to suffer or stress or experience life or go out and be a subordinate to somebody who was a boss. She has zero time with that. And in fact, every time she has had to be under a boss, she's either quit or been fired. Starting with One American News, first job out of college, fired. She says she quit. She got fired. They weren't going to re-sign her. Glenn Beck, fired. So, Donna, that's why. And I don't care if the young crowd listens to her. That's the problem with this country. You're taking up for Tommy Lahren because you have formulated an opinion in your mind about what works in this country. And if that worked, where young people listening to young people worked, then this country would be moving right along. But it doesn't work. Young people listen to other people that have no experience. They should be convinced that they need to listen to people with real experience that are older, that know what they're talking about, have paid the price, and climbed the mountain. That's who young people need to be listening to. The reason young people are getting progressively dumber and more lazy is because they listen to people that give them opinion, not an educated analysis. That's why. And the fact that you sit here and are arguing with me about this just shows me that you don't understand this. You don't get it. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I don't know you, Donna. I don't know what you've done. I don't know who you are, how old you are, where you've been. But I don't formulate my opinion by listening to others. I formulate my opinion. I hear some things that others say, but before I formulate my opinion, I go find people that have actually done something in that field. Or I turn the old computer on and I research it. I don't listen to others and formulate my opinion. And that's your problem, Donna, along with the majority of the people on the conservative side in this country. You need to stop formulating your opinion based on what others say, and you start formulating your opinion based on the analysis that comes from people that are in that field or from actually doing some research. So I don't really care what Tommy Lahren or anybody else says to young people. The message that should be going to young people is you need to stop listening to young people that have never done anything because they're a nice little shiny thing that sits up on the stage. You need something that is rough, like leather, that has been molded, and somebody that sits up there and says, no, this is the problem. Not, I feel bad and this is making me angry and we should be more like this. Well, where are you coming up with all these opinions? Watching and listening doesn't do anything. Hearing and then seeking, that's how you formulate an educated opinion. I'm just reading what you guys are writing. And listen, Jody, the people who are millennials and they've got constitutional conservative views and they're out there getting their life experience, good. Let them get that experience. They will eventually be the voices, the educated voices that need to be heard. But not a 24-year-old that graduated college has been fired from 2 jobs. I don't need to hear anything. I don't care if they have the same opinions that I do. They don't need to be the voice that young people listen to. And young people should start seeking educated analysis, expert analysis. They should start researching this stuff on their own. Stop getting their opinions from a meme or some Facebook post or some 3-minute video that somebody makes with a couple of curse words in there and an opinion that melts and kind of that they favor. They need to start listening and seeking experienced people, hearing what they say, researching themselves, and formulating an educated opinion. This hearing, I hear and I come up with an opinion, that just doesn't work. And that's the problem. Comfort kills. When you're too comfortable, you're not going to go above and beyond. These people don't go above and beyond. They want to hear and see the shiny thing talk, and they want to be told that I feel like you do, and this is wrong. And it reminds me of the Billy Madison when he had to go back to school, and at the end of Billy Madison, he had to give a speech. And so he gave a speech in order to graduate high school. It's a Adam Sandler movie. And at the end of the speech, he gave a speech about some dog, the dog that could, or a little puppy that could, or something like that. And at the end of it, everybody was sitting there like, what is this guy talking about? And he goes, the name of the school was Nib High School. He said, Nib High football rules. And everybody's like, ah, and the whole crowd went crazy. And then the principal sat there and he said, nowhere in that statement was anything remotely coherent. And we are all now dumber for having heard that. And may God have mercy on our souls. And that's the way I feel when these people get up and they go back and forth. If you ever watched Jessica Tarloff and Tommy Lahren go at each other on Fox News, you're looking at 2 people who have little to no experience in anything in life, and they're debating narratives that they subscribe to because that's either the way they were raised or that's an opinion that they developed from college. And they're going to argue, but because they're both pretty, people are going to leave it on there. Because they're spicy, people are going to take a side. And before the end of this, end of that show, you've learned nothing. Nobody knows anything. It's just opinions and narratives are reinforced, and that's it. And they have a soundbite. So I get a little testy, but I hope people, including Donna, understand what I'm trying to say. We're in a position, everybody keeps asking me, how are we going to fix this? We're going to fix it when people stop with this nonsense of that person said that and I feel the same way. You need to research it and figure it out for yourself. And even if you come up with the same opinion, you are going to be more educated and better understanding, and you're going to be a wiser person because of it. So Donna says, I do go above and beyond. I do seek truth. Part of that is listening and debating and researching. How are you going to debate if you okay, you say researching. You have to do your research and find out what the experts are saying, first and foremost, before you debate anything. If the kids watch the shiny thing and the shiny thing tells them what I would, I'm fine with the shiny thing for the kids. I'm not fine with it. I think kids should be hearing, and they should be wanting to hear from experts. Children are like a supercomputer, and they must be programmed. Otherwise, they will be programmed. Children and young people, millennials, must be taught the truth by people who are experts in that field. If they resign themselves to listening to the shiny thing that's on stage or on TV, they will eventually be misled. And they will also become more and more lazy because they are not doing research and they are not insisting that the expert is there to tell them the truth. That's the problem. And Lauren, you're exactly right. They don't know how to recognize an expert because they have been watching the shiny thing for too long. I think a perfect example of Tomi Lahren, and what disgusted me about her is the fact that she's going to take a position on abortion when she obviously doesn't. And I'll debate somebody about abortion until the cows come home, and it's just this simple. Take religion out of it. Abortion is an issue of constitutional rights and the right to life by anything that's living and anything that can live. And if science can't tell us where life begins, we must protect all life. Period. That's it. It's really that simple. It has nothing to do with a woman's body. It has to do with you made the wrong choice. Now you have a living entity in you. The Constitution kicks in and protects that life. It's no different than if you have a kid and you leave the kid in a hot car. It's your decision. You make a bad decision. The kid dies. You're going to be punished for murder or manslaughter or whatever they're going to get you on. John's perfect analogy. Fish that are attracted to shiny things end up on the wrong end of a hook. Yes, exactly. Rebecca says young adults don't have critical thinking skills or problem-solving skills. They could. Be very easy to teach them that. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Our numbers are dying. They're dying a fast death. Let's see what we got on Twitter. I turned Twitter off. And then we'll go. This has been an unusual show. For those of you that this is your first time watching, normally the show's shorter and more organized. And we threw both of those out with the bathwater tonight. So, Donna, you said, and if Tomi doesn't have a kid, she is not expert enough to say, don't leave your kid in the car. That's my point. No, that's not the point. I've never had a kid. I know the law. You're a United States citizen. You should know the law. You are a human being. You should know about getting overheated. So she has plenty of ground to stand on to talk about don't leave your kid in the car. She should know the law, and she should know as a human being how not to get overheated. Now you're in West Virginia, Eleanor? You were in Kentucky. All right. Let's go to the True Zone. My phone's about to die. Thanks for tuning in there, Rich. Laughing Man says she's become an expert on getting fired. Vicky Sue says, why do we bash those that are on our side? Because they are not really on our side. Exactly. And I agree with Vicky Sue on this one, okay? Here's I got to look more at who Sarah Huckabee Sanders is and what she's done. But I'll tell you, she missed her calling as a drill instructor. That woman is like the female version of Tony Soprano in the Sopranos, where Jim Gandolfini did an incredible job acting. Would smile while he was taking somebody down, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders she speaks with authority, man. I like that girl a lot. I'm sorry, I like that woman a lot. So Mary Felix said, good evening, Jonathan. I live in California. How do I address our officials in regard to indoctrination, transgenderism? There are bills going through legislation regarding taxpayers paying for prison inmates getting sex changes. I don't know what this sex change thing is going on. I don't know. Mary, the people of California need to do exactly what we're talking about and unify. I don't know. That's another thing for another show, but we'll definitely cover that. I don't know anymore, folks. I don't know. Let's go to the True Zone. I'll just answer this with that. Eleanor, you're not going anywhere yet. We're not done. So, folks, as you see tonight, sometimes you just got to throw the outline out and just take questions and roll with it and give people the chance to speak their minds. I'm not going to sit here, though, in this show and debate with people that aren't going to listen. Donna, I can tell that you're not listening to what I say. And I always tell this with people when they they're not listening. Remember, part of understanding when somebody's talking and part of having a conversation is listening. Debating is not just simply about having a retort. Having a true debate really should be more of a conversation where you're listening to, unless it's politics and you're just wanting to prove your narrative. But on this show, what we do is we look for reality. We look for real solutions. We look for real examples of what's wrong with this country. And I can always tell when somebody's not listening to what I say. Because they continuously come back with an argument, not with facts. And that is the problem. The same person that asked me, why do I attack our side, and I don't have our side. I'm a citizen of the United States, and I believe in free thinking. And that's another problem. We're picking sides. The people need to come together as one. But the real problem here is that you can't have a healthy debate or a healthy conversation if you just simply say, this is the way it is, and I know it's this way. You have to start listening and contemplating what other people are saying, especially if they are in the know. If you're not willing to listen to experts when they talk, if you're not willing to listen to people when they have an opinion that's different than yours, and all you want to do is argue, you are putting yourself in the same exact position as the rest of the country that's on the conservative side or the non-Democratic Party side, and you'll take offense to it. You're going to come back with a rebuttal, and everything you say thereafter is going to be an argument against the person that's trying to make a point. I mean, I think this has been a perfect example of why I continuously rag on the conservative side, because it's nothing but a constant argument and an attempt to prove that this person knows more than that person. I don't know if we can fix this. I don't know. Because all anybody wants to do is argue. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Old Rico's asleep down there. He had a big day today. I'll be back tomorrow a little bit more organized. We should stop arguing and stop taking up for people that we don't know. You don't know Tommy Lahren. Don't take up for her. Let her do it herself. I'm Jonathan Gillum. I'll see you all tomorrow on The Experts right here, 9 p.m. And remember, as always, the truth has arrived. I know there's hardly anybody watching this anymore, but Tim just said something that really infuriates me. And the fact is, folks, this country and the young people are in such disarray because of this statement. He says he has 3 girls, and he's taught them his values and encouraged them to think for themselves. That's great. But they will listen to those near their age. That's not great. And when it happens, I prefer it to be a young person that is saying things near to my values. Your kids should be listening to people that are grown and that have experience. Period. Teach them that.